He thought blood was thicker than water. But when his secret became his brother's burden, the family bond turned into a curse. Welcome to African Tales by Ijele. Like, share and comment your opinion. The city lights of Lagos glittered like diamonds, but Kenneth's world was covered in shadows. At 35, he had everything money could buy, an enviable job, a sleek car, and a family name respected in the neighborhood. But one thing his wealth couldn't buy was peace of mind. Years ago, Kenneth dated Linda, a woman known for her restless heart. She was beautiful, yes, but she hopped from one man to another like a bird without a nest. Still, Kenneth stayed with her for 5 long years, hoping she would one day settle with him. But deep down, he had a question he feared to voice: can I even father a child? Month after month, he tried to get Linda pregnant. But her womb remained empty. People whispered it was because of Linda's lifestyle. Kenneth wanted to believe that too. Until the day they walked into a hospital together. The truth was a dagger. Tests confirmed it was not Linda's fault. It was Kenneth. He was impotent. Not because of any accident or curse, just a natural condition he was born with. When the doctor left the room, Kenneth sat frozen, his ears ringing. Linda's eyes filled with shock and disappointment. She stood up, grabbed her bag, and walked out of his life without looking back. 5 years ended in a hospital waiting room. Kenneth went home that night and told his mother and younger brother, James. His mother wept. James was shattered. But Mama wiped her tears quickly and declared, "Doctors may say no, but God has not spoken yet. My son will father children." I refuse to believe otherwise. Kenneth wanted to believe her. But deep inside, doubt had already pitched its tent. 3 years passed. Kenneth buried himself in work, hiding his loneliness behind success. But a man can only run for so long. His mother pressed him again. "Kenneth, it's time. You must marry. God will do it in His own way." That was when Cynthia came into the picture. A calm, well-brought-up Christian girl, still a virgin at 25, with dreams of building a God-fearing home. Kenneth was captivated by her purity, her quiet smile, and her faith. To him, she was the perfect wife material. But there was one problem. He never told Cynthia about his condition. He married her with a secret locked in his chest, hoping, just maybe, his mother was right, and God would rewrite his story. Their wedding was grand. City friends gathered, music filled the hall, and everyone admired the beautiful couple. Mama danced with pride. James clapped until his palms hurt. But 2 years into the marriage, Cynthia's womb was still empty. No pregnancy. Not even a miscarriage. Nothing. Cynthia cried in the privacy of their bedroom, praying and fasting, blaming herself. She visited doctors secretly, all confirming she was perfectly fine. She didn't know her husband's truth. Kenneth, meanwhile, was dying slowly inside. One night, Kenneth sat with James in the balcony of their city duplex. The streetlights flickered outside as silence hung heavy. Kenneth spoke with trembling lips. "James. I can't keep living like this. Cynthia deserves children. The world expects children. But I can't. I can't give her any." James sighed, his eyes dark with pity. "Brother, what do you want me to say? We've carried this pain for years." Kenneth's voice dropped lower. "There's only one way. You will give her children for me." James froze. "What? That's madness. How can I?" Kenneth cut in, desperate. "It will still be family blood. My blood. Not a stranger's. Nobody has to know. Not Mama, not Cynthia. Just us." James' chest tightened. His heart pounded. He wanted to refuse, but brotherhood chained him. He saw the desperation in Kenneth's eyes, the madness of a man haunted by shame. "She will never agree to it," James whispered. "She doesn't need to," Kenneth replied coldly. "I'll make it happen. Leave the rest to me." And so, the plan was born. Kenneth drugged his own wife one night. James, with guilt choking him, entered the room. It was a betrayal sealed in silence, hidden in the walls of their matrimonial home. Months later, Cynthia missed her period. Tests confirmed she was pregnant. She jumped for joy, praising God. She testified in church about answered prayers. She kissed her husband and called him the best man in the world. Kenneth smiled, but inside, his soul was burning in chains of guilt. 9 months later, Cynthia's cries of labor filled a private city hospital. Kenneth stood outside, sweating, pacing the corridors. James too was there, hiding his storm of guilt behind a forced smile. When the nurse finally came out and said, "Congratulations, it's a boy," Cynthia wept for joy. She clutched the baby to her chest, praising God for removing her shame. Kenneth held the child and felt a strange mixture of triumph and torment. His mother ululated on the phone when she heard the news. "Didn't I tell you, Kenneth? Doctors don't have the final say. My God did it." But only Kenneth and James knew the bitter truth. The child was family blood, yes, but not Kenneth's. Cynthia named him David, and for 2 years, her life was filled with songs, diapers, and late-night cuddles. Kenneth showered them with gifts, but inside, he felt chained by guilt. Every time the baby called him Daddy, a voice in his head whispered, "You are living a lie." 2 years passed. Pressure came again. Mama wanted a second grandchild. Cynthia herself was ready for another. Kenneth knew what that meant. One night, he cornered James again. "Brother, it has to be done. David needs a sibling. Mama is watching. Cynthia is praying. I can't stop now." James hesitated. His face was pale. "Kenneth, this thing we are doing is wrong. It's eating me alive." Kenneth's voice hardened. "Wrong or right, you are my brother. This is about blood. My blood. If you back out now, everything collapses." And so, it happened again. Kenneth drugged Cynthia, James did the unthinkable again. The guilt deepened like a knife wound that refused to heal. 9 months later, Cynthia delivered a baby girl, a beautiful angel she named Grace. She testified in church again, dancing at the altar, thanking God for giving her a complete family. Kenneth smiled beside her. The congregation clapped. But James, standing in the back pew, couldn't look at the altar. His stomach turned. Now he had fathered 2 children, but none bore his name. Life seemed stable until tragedy struck. One rainy evening, James was returning from work. A trailer skidded on the wet road and slammed into his car. The wreck was terrible. James survived, but barely. His legs were shattered, his waist crushed. After months in the hospital, doctors gave the verdict. You will never walk properly again. And, you cannot father children anymore. James lay on the hospital bed, broken. Anger filled his soul. The only children he would ever have were the ones he secretly fathered for his brother. Bitterness poisoned him. When Kenneth visited, James stared coldly. You used me. You made me sin against God, against Cynthia, against myself. And now, the only children I have are calling another man Daddy. Kenneth tried to calm him. James, don't speak like that. They are your blood, but they are my children. This was our secret deal. James' voice thundered in the hospital room. No, Kenneth. They are my children. And I will not let you take them from me anymore. The brotherhood that once bound them had snapped. A war had begun. A war that would destroy the fragile peace in their city home. James came home from the hospital with crutches and a bitter heart. His body was weak, but his tongue was sharp. Every time he saw David or Grace playing in the living room, something twisted inside him. One night, while Mama was asleep and Cynthia was in the kitchen, James snapped. "Kenneth, stop deceiving yourself. Those children are mine. Flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone. They carry my blood, not yours." Kenneth's face hardened. "Don't forget who raised them. Don't forget who pays their school fees. Don't forget who they call Daddy. You gave them to me because you're my brother. Don't turn back now." James slammed his crutch on the tiled floor. His voice trembled with fury. "I gave them out of love. Out of pity. But now that I have nothing, no wife, no ability to father more, I cannot let you take them from me. They are all I have left." The air in the sitting room was heavy. The bond of blood was poisoned. For the first time in their lives, Kenneth and James were no longer brothers, they were rivals. Days turned into weeks. The house became a silent battlefield. Kenneth avoided James, locking himself in the study most evenings. James, on the other hand, grew closer to the children. He told them bedtime stories, bought them ice cream from the neighborhood shop, and even whispered, "Uncle loves you more than life." Kenneth saw it and boiled inside. One evening, he cornered James again. "Stay away from my children. You're confusing them." James smirked. "Your children? Kenneth, stop lying even to yourself. When David grows up and sees my face beside his in the mirror, when Grace asks why she has your name but not your blood, what will you tell them?" Kenneth clenched his fists. "If you ever open your mouth to anyone about this, especially Cynthia, I swear, James, I'll..." James cut in with a laugh that carried pain. "You'll what? You'll kill me? You already killed me the day you drugged your wife and pushed me into sin." Kenneth froze. His chest rose and fell in heavy guilt. He had no reply. The night was calm. The city lights glowed through the curtains of their duplex. Cynthia returned from work earlier than usual, her handbag still on her shoulder. She was about to enter the sitting room when she heard voices. It was Kenneth and James, arguing again. She stopped, her heart racing, her ear pressed to the wall. Kenneth's voice. "James, don't ruin everything. If Cynthia ever finds out, she'll leave me." James' voice, sharp and bitter. "She deserves to know the truth. She deserves to know her children were never fathered by you. 2 children, Kenneth, my children, born in deceit. And you want me to keep silent forever?" Cynthia's world collapsed in that moment. Her knees buckled. The handbag slid from her shoulder to the floor. Tears rushed to her eyes like a broken dam. She covered her mouth to stop a scream. The truth was too heavy, too dark, too cruel. Her heart whispered. "My husband betrayed me. My home is built on a lie. My children are not his." Her hands trembled. She staggered backwards from the door. In that instant, Cynthia's love turned into fire, and her marriage became a house of ashes. Cynthia's ears could no longer carry the weight of what she had heard. Her heart beat like thunder, her legs went weak. She staggered backward from the door, then collapsed heavily at the doorway. Her head hit the tiled floor with a sharp sound. The security man at the gate heard the noise. He rushed in, shouting, "Madam! Madam! Somebody help! Oh! Madam has fainted." Kenneth and James froze in the sitting room. Their blood drained. Kenneth ran out first, his face pale. There she was, Cynthia, lifeless at the door, her handbag scattered beside her. Kenneth shouted, "Call the driver. Call the driver now." The compound filled with chaos. The security man, the cook, the neighbors, they all rushed to see. Within minutes, Cynthia was in the back seat of the car, Kenneth holding her head, James trembling in silence. At the private hospital, Cynthia lay unconscious. Doctors and nurses worked quickly, putting her on a drip. Kenneth paced up and down the corridor like a madman. James sat quietly, guilt eating him alive. Hours later, Cynthia opened her eyes. Weak. Broken. Silent. Kenneth rushed to her side, holding her hand. Cynthia. Cynthia, please forgive me. Don't scare me like this again. But Cynthia pulled her hand away slowly. She turned her face to the wall, refusing to look at him. Tears rolled down her cheeks. The doctor came in. She's stable. But please, whatever is troubling her, resolve it. She is emotionally broken. Kenneth nodded, shame clouding his face. He knew, this wasn't just fainting. She had heard the truth. That night, James whispered outside the ward. Kenneth, we can't run anymore. She knows. Kenneth shook his head violently. No. Maybe she didn't hear everything. Maybe she. But his voice cracked. Deep down, he knew the wall between them was gone. The next evening, they returned home. The house that once held laughter now breathed tension. Cynthia walked in quietly, her face pale, her eyes swollen from weeping. She dropped her handbag on the table and turned slowly to face them, Kenneth and James. Her voice was cold, sharp, trembling with rage and heartbreak. How could you? Kenneth, how could you drug me? How could you betray our vows? How could you let your own brother, father my children? Kenneth collapsed into the sofa, his hands covering his face. James leaned on his crutches, his eyes wet. Cynthia's cry tore the air. 5 years. 5 years of marriage built on lies. You let me testify in church, you let me thank God, you let me call you father of my children. When all this time, I was living in a nightmare I didn't know existed. Kenneth crawled toward her, begging. Cynthia, please. I was desperate. I didn't want another man's blood in my home. James was the only way. But Cynthia screamed, shaking her head. You destroyed me, Kenneth. You destroyed my body, my trust, my faith, my life. And you, she turned to James, you were supposed to protect me as a brother. But you joined hands with him to ruin me. Silence swallowed the house. The truth had broken every bond, husband and wife, brothers, even mother and sons. Nothing would ever be the same again. The atmosphere in the house was already heavy when Mama walked in unexpectedly. She had come to spend the weekend with her grandchildren. But she walked in at the wrong moment. Kenneth and Cynthia were in the middle of a heated confrontation. Cynthia's voice broke like glass. Ask your son, Mama. Ask him how I gave birth to 2 children without his seed. Ask him how he drugged me, and let James lie with me in my own bed. Mama froze. Her wrapper almost slipped from her shoulders. She turned to Kenneth, her voice shaking. Kenneth. Kenneth dropped to his knees, weeping. Mama. I was desperate. The words tore Mama's soul. She staggered backwards, clutching her chest. You destroyed a holy marriage, you turned your wife into a victim, and you dragged your brother into sin? Her knees buckled. She collapsed right there in the living room. Screams filled the air. Neighbors rushed in. The compound became chaos. At the hospital, Mama lay weak and pale. Her tears flowed non-stop. I prayed for God's miracle, but you forced one with your own hands. And now, see where it has brought us. Word travels fast in the city. Within days, the secret spread like wildfire. A friend of Cynthia's cousin had overheard at the hospital. Soon, whispers filled church aisles, offices, and markets. "Have you heard? That big man Kenneth, his brother fathered his children. Ha! In this Lagos, everything is possible." Cynthia's family stormed the house in anger. Her elder brother shouted, veins bulging. "You used our sister like a rag. You drugged her, violated her trust. Do you know the disgrace you have brought to us?" Cynthia sat silently in the corner, her eyes swollen. The children played innocently in their room, unaware of the storm outside. The once proud family became the laughingstock of the city. Invitations stopped coming. Friends avoided Kenneth at functions. His reputation collapsed overnight. At home, the silence was unbearable. James, confined to his crutches, demanded openly, "Those are my children. If I can't father more, at least give me the right to call them mine." Kenneth shouted back, his voice hoarse. "Never. They bear my name. You will not steal them from me." Cynthia broke down, screaming through her tears. "Both of you disgust me. My body, my womb, my home, you used it like a battlefield for your pride. None of you deserve me, none of you deserve these children." She gathered her children into her arms, holding them tight. For the first time, she felt utterly alone, yet fiercely protective. The house that once stood tall in the city now became a graveyard of trust. Love died. Respect vanished. What remained was bitterness, regret, and brokenness. Cynthia stood by the window and whispered to herself, "My children are innocent. I will live for them. But as for Kenneth, as for James, I will never forgive." Kenneth built his home on lies. James carried a guilt he could never erase. Cynthia bore scars deeper than childbirth. In the end, the children became victims of a secret they never asked for. In this city, wealth and comfort could not hide the truth. Remember, a family built on deceit is already on fire. It is only a matter of time before the smoke chokes everywhere. Years passed. David and Grace grew, innocent yet sharp. They noticed the tension between their parents and Uncle James. One day David asked, "Mummy, why does Uncle look at us like that?" Cynthia froze. Her heart ached. How could she tell them they were born in betrayal? She hugged him tightly and whispered, "Because he loves you, maybe too much." I ask this question, my lovely viewers. Do you believe the children deserve to know the truth about their real father? Why or why not? Moving forward. But at night, when the children slept, Cynthia wept quietly. She knew the truth would one day find them too. Cynthia's family pressed her. Divorce Kenneth. Leave that house. Start fresh. But Cynthia shook her head. No. My children are innocent. They didn't ask for this. I will stay, not for him, but for them. Did Cynthia make the right decision by staying? Will you make a such decision if it is you? Her resolve was steel. She stopped looking at Kenneth as a husband. She treated him as the father figure he pretended to be, but in her heart, he was dead. James, now permanently on crutches, sank deeper into depression. He saw his children every day but could never call them his. The guilt of betrayal and the bitterness of losing them to his brother tore him apart. One night, he confessed to Cynthia privately. "Cynthia, forgive me. I was weak. I should have protected you. I should have refused Kenneth. I destroyed your life." Cynthia stared at him, tears streaming. "You didn't just destroy my life, James. You destroyed yours too." James broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Kenneth still had money, status, and his name in the city, but none of it mattered anymore. Cynthia no longer touched him. Mama could barely look him in the eye without tears. James resented him. At work, people whispered. At home, silence choked him. He ate alone, slept alone, and woke up to the sound of children who called him Daddy, but whose blood was not his. Every smile from them was a reminder of the lie. Every hug felt like a blade of guilt. Kenneth, once a proud man, had become a prisoner in the mansion he built. Can a marriage truly survive after such betrayal, or is divorce the only way? The last scene closes with Cynthia walking her children to school. She kneels to David and Grace and says softly, "Listen to me, my loves. Never let desperation make you build your future on lies. Truth may hurt, but lies will destroy you." Kenneth watches them from the balcony, his eyes empty. James sits by the window, his crutches beside him, tears on his face. Cynthia holds her children's hands tighter, determined to raise them with truth. In this story, who do you blame more, Kenneth for planning it, or James for accepting it? Kenneth's lie gave him children, but stole his peace. James' sacrifice gave him guilt, not joy. Cynthia's faith gave her scars she would carry forever. In the end, their city home became a house of secrets and shadows. Remember this: a family built on deceit may stand tall in the city, but it will always collapse inside. Thank you for watching. African Tales by Ijele. If this story touches, give me a like, share it and subscribe for more. See you in my next video.